Woo! So, relative to everyone else who's had videos out about the premiere of the new Ducktales, I am late to this party, but I liked it so much I want to talk about it anyway, so here we go. So, I haven't really talked about Ducktales that much. I would watch the show on occasion. I did have on VHS the Ducktales movie, which I love, like still to this day really love. Feel that it's a shame that it's not as well remembered as the show seems to be. It doesn't come up in conversations about Disney movies all that often. I find that especially annoying given how much of the plot details the Aladdin would later lift from it. But I like DuckTales a lot. And of course I played the video game on the original Nintendo, beat the crap out of it, bought DuckTales Remastered for my PS3, beat the crap out of that too. So I like DuckTales a lot, and there is almost nothing I don't like about this new version. First of all, love the theme. They switched it up just enough, but it feels just enough like the original. I just love that. Being a Doctor Who fan, David Tennant as Scrooge McDuck, how can I not love that? I really like that they have found a way to distinguish Huey, Dewey, and Louie. I actually know which one's which this time. I could never remember which one's which. I actually know now. Huey in red, Dewey in blue, Louie in green. I now know because they did little things beyond just the colors to make them look different, and they've got different personalities now, and yet still feel true to the boys overall, because you still see the aspects that were always present, but they've kind of spaced them out and then emphasized those aspects greater in each individual one, rather than copy and paste the same character and just palette swap it. So you got three. There were lots of little nods to the original. I love the marbles joke. So if you watch the original, the boys were always using marbles in these weird, crazy ways to get out of jams or whatever, and he's got this bag of marbles like, I've got an idea, and he's just using it to beat on a doorknob until they get... Oh, that was great. The jokes are pretty rapid fire. It did take me a little bit to sort of get into the pace of this thing, which, as far as jokes go, is pretty rapid pace, and that's pretty standard for animation these days, whether it is film or television. It's pretty rapid fire, and once I got into the pace, it works pretty well. I think this is gonna be a weird nitpick. Something about the animation style makes Donald Duck harder for me to understand. I know that sounds weird. I think it's just because of how basic the lip movements are with the stylized look that they're going for, which is a look I like overall. But those movements are so basic, without a ton of articulation in his bill, I found it harder to understand Donald Duck than usual. Normally, I am able to follow him a lot easier. I love the changes to Webby, because if there was some dead weight in the original DuckTales, it was Webby. I mean, they did what they could for her as time went on, but overall, she was annoying, and the characters were always annoyed with her, and the characters you liked were always annoyed with her, so you couldn't help but find her annoying. But they found a neat way to sort of turn that around without just having her be, you know, the tomboy who does all the stuff better. Like, she's obviously really enthusiastic, but she's also, you know, clearly a little bit awkward, and she's got a lot of knowledge, but she still makes mistakes, like the fact that she mistook a garage for like a secret museum. So, I mean, I like that stuff. Mrs. Beakley is an interesting twist. I'm kind of liking how annoyed she gets when Scrooge is basically telling her to take a memo. She's like, I'm not your secretary. So that was all good. Glumgold, that was a lot of fun. Craig Ferguson did a great job voicing him. And I liked the villains that got pulled along for that in this sort of, it really is 2 episodes. You can kind of break it up, but and I love just the adventuring spirit of it, which is exactly what you want out of DuckTales, out of Scrooge stories, is that adventure and that going out into the unknown, getting the treasure, coming up against crazy wild things. And I love that Scrooge can be completely nonplussed by some of it, like very unimpressed by like the pirate with the sword on the headless man horse. And it says, I want the head of Scrooge McDuck. He just goes, would you settle for his hat? So I love how nonchalant he can be about that, yet still recognize when things are bad, because there's a much higher degree of sort of, oh crap, when like the dragon comes out and stuff like that. And I'm going to be curious to see how much of a serialized story this tells. I don't expect it to be a long form thing, but I am finding it interesting that it seems to be leaning towards, again, it's early, but it seems to be leaning towards developing relationships between the characters that will continue to grow and evolve. I mean, we're already seeing that specifically with the highlighted sections we see between Dewey and Scrooge. So we're seeing some signs of that. So I don't really want serialized storytelling in the sense of, let's tell this story over all these episodes. No, I want little nice self-contained adventures, but if the dynamics between the characters, it can continue to evolve as the show goes on, I'll have a lot of fun with that. Pretty much the only character who didn't get some sort of adjustment in terms of their behavior or their relationship to the other characters seems to be Launchpad, who's pretty much the same guy, which is fine. I am absolutely on board for that, because Launchpad, in the correct doses, which they have him dosed very well in this premiere pair of episodes, in the correct dosage, he's just awesome and wonderful and lovable, and he's all that here. And I'm also gonna say, I got my daughter to watch this, and she had seen the DuckTales movie, and she liked it well enough, but I got her to watch this, and her first question was, do we have any more episodes? In which I had to go, no, we're gonna have to wait a week, sweetie. So I consider that to be a ringing endorsement, because normally she doesn't go for anything that doesn't feature dogs or wolves in it. So that's a big thumbs up from, I would say, maybe slightly younger than the target demographic, but you know what? I'm happy to see the show back. I think the attitude with which they're approaching it works. I think the style with which they are approaching it, both visually and in terms of the humor and the characterization, all works. And it is different enough that it feels like it's worth engaging in, but true enough to the original that it does not feel like they're changing it just because they can. Every change, every choice feels like it was made for a reason, and that is the exact correct way to reboot a beloved property. So, DuckTales, the new series. Have you seen it? The premiere episode at any rate. What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check me out on Twitter at Council of Geeks. Give a listen to the Council of Geeks podcast, available on iTunes and Stitcher. I'm also one half of the Punch Like a Girl podcast, also available on iTunes and Stitcher. And until next time, this council is adjourned.